Hello there, this is Cathy Carlino. It's kind of amazing. We've been doing some videos and we've been posting, and I have a bit of a following and I've had some requests. I had mentioned, if you remember my last video on making tomato paste from scratch, from actual tomatoes. You watched it and it was very well received. I had also mentioned that I make my meatballs poached in the sauce, and how different traditions, I think every culture has their own rendition of a meatball, but even in the Italian culture, of which I am of Italian descent, we all make them differently. So this is not, don't be saying I am supposed to make it this way or that way. I'm just showing you, as I always love to quote, the way my mother makes them. And so this is the way, God rest her soul, I'm going to show you. It's a traditional tomato sauce. I thought, if I'm going to go and do the process of the meatballs, we might as well start right from the scratch, and we'll make tomato sauce today. So you're going to see it. I'm opening my kitchen to you all. You'll notice on the table we do have the tomatoes that we processed. So these will keep anywhere to 2 years on your pantry, and we're going to go ahead and use it today. I'll show you how. So in this, there is only tomato. You'll notice there's some basil and some pepper, because sometimes you can't always buy basil at the store, especially when my parents first came, you couldn't. So they always made sure that they put enough right into the sauce. There is a little bit of salt in that. I'm also going to be using my homemade paste. This is a half tomato puree, half red shepherd peppers. Again, using those beautiful machines and equipment that was a legacy from my dad. We were able to remove the seeds and the skins, and then we slowly cooked down the combination, pretty much half and half. Towards the end, we started adding oil and pepper and basil again. See, there's kind of a similarity in all that we cook. Basil, black pepper, salt, sometimes paprika. You'll see I'll use a little bit of paprika in my sauce today, but that's pretty much the fundamental spices for Italian cooking. Alrighty then, so first I'm making a fair amount of sauce today because Mama Carlino makes it for her kids, and they'll be picking that up, and once it's all been processed. When you make a sauce with the meat, here's the ground pork for the meatballs, and that'll be later in the process. This is a medium ground pork. I do not, yes, some people make it half pork, half beef. Some people make it half pork, I've heard lamb, half pork chicken, I've even heard. My mother always made it all pork, and that's what we do. So there's the beautiful fresh ground pork. And here we have, for the meat, when you're doing, and again, this is very traditional. When you're making meat sauce, this is not a bolognese sauce. This is like, you came right from Italy, and this is a blade roast, so it's a tougher cut. And when you're cooking it, all those flavors are going to go into your sauce. It takes the edge off the onions as well. So you'll watch, let's grab our good handy dandy knives, and you'll see how that goes. Sometimes the butcher will just give you a chunk of blade, sometimes with bone. Hard to get blade roast with a chunk of bone. The bone always gives flavor, so you like that. So I'm cutting this up into nice chunks, and I always start with a beef for the sauce. My mother always did, that's what I do. So I go ahead and then cube it up. And again, you're looking for a tougher cut of meat. This is a blade roast. To see it. So get rid of the lid. And I just love a non-stick pot. I just love this huge non-stick pot. We all have our passions, and I guess my passion is pots. I'm trying to make 2 sauces today, which is not traditional. This will be your traditional sauce with onion, and this is going to be non-traditional with no onion. I have someone near and dear to me that has an allergy to onion and garlic. That's a challenge for an Italian. And so we're going to make an attempt at making the most flavorful sauce we can without the onion and the garlic. As far as our regular sauce, I never put garlic. In southern Italy, we do not put garlic in our regular sauce. You'll see it takes on a whole different flavor if you did your sauce always with garlic, and try doing it the way I'm doing it, starting with the meat, adding your oils, and I'm going to show you the process slowly, and just onions straight up, caramelizing those onions until you're ready, and then you'll just see the process unfold. That is an onion. Thanks, Pete. There's a friend of ours, older gentleman, brought us 4 onions, and you pretty much can eat 4 or 5 people with one onion of these. It's all a process. And you know what? This was a process that my mother did every Sunday faithfully. Every Sunday, the expectation was that we would have spaghetti, pasta, not necessarily spaghetti, and it would be made fresh that morning. And you know what, it's up to you. You can use your knife, you can use, I know we all have different gadgets to chop your onions. The whole point is to get it nice, as fine as you can, and not to cut yourself. There's no set recipe. I have people say, oh, can you give me the recipe? There really is no set recipe. I eyeball lots of what I'm doing. I can give you general ingredients. Like if you noticed, I poured some of the onion on top of the thing so I could see approximately. You want the bottom of the pot somewhat covered, but not necessarily overly. So do that. And that last piece, I'm going to go ahead and use that whole big onion. So you'll see that I have 2 pots ready to go. Again, these are the beautiful non-stick pots. We have blade roast that you watched me chop up. It's there with some onions. We're going to do all the spices. We don't mess around, we go big spices here. We're going to do spices, which is black pepper, and fair amount, right? And I'm making a sauce here without onions and without garlic. It's just going to be more of a plain sauce for someone who has allergies to it. Heat on high for both. Make sure I get the right one, high. And we need oil in that. We don't really use, some people do a mixture thereof, but we really don't use olive oil at this point because you are heating it. You're not supposed to heat it. But you do you.
You're not supposed to heat olive oil?
Not supposed to. It kills it. So we use just regular oil. I have black pepper. I need a wooden spoon. So I'm going to wait for that to start to sizzle. I want a little bit of paprika in there as well. So I'm going to go reach in to my other spice drawer. How big is your paprika container? We're working our way through this one. 1 and 2. Okay. Let's put this away. While that starts to sizzle, I'm going to start cracking open the jars. 1. You can reuse the rings, but you have to always replace the lids. Remember that. Yep, that's a lot of sauce. So I'm going to do 2 of these are going to be in the pot that doesn't have any onions or garlic. And then the other 4 are going to go in the bigger sauce. I'm also going to bring out my magic tomato paste. That's a combination of sweet peppers and it's tomato puree, drained as much as you can, using our equipment to take away the seeds and the and the skins, and then you slowly cook it, adding oil, and now it's ready. So if I didn't have my own and you wanted to duplicate this recipe, you still can. I'm not gonna say it tastes the same, but it's still gonna be very, very good. So you would use canned tomato puree. It's available in jars. If you go to your grocery store, a little bit more money, but if you're gonna go to the effort, sometimes it's worth it. And then your paste you can purchase as well. Some people even use the squeezable. I'm not well versed. I have played with it a little bit, but not a lot, because I personally prefer to make my own. So I think this will give way more flavor to the non-onion sauce than if you just did it by itself. So everything's an experiment, right? Here. That paste that we're adding is going to add thickness to your sauce and a different dimension of flavors too, right? So that one's the one in there. Then let's throw in the jar in here. Again, there's a little bit more in this one than the other one because it's a bigger sauce. And we're gonna just let this simmer nice and slow until the onions are all caramelized. You can add the paste right away, but you can't add, I don't know why, but you just can't add the tomato right away. You want that onion to cook. No rushing, a good thing. Now this, on the other hand, has no. I'm just gonna wait till the meat is nice and brown. And this is the right kind of meat to use because it's just gonna give you more flavors, and it's gonna give you, it's gonna be a longer process to tenderize, so it can handle that extra cooking. Oh, I think I need a little bit more oil in this one. Remember, no recipe, just by eye.
Well, why did you pick that?
Because it looked dry. It kind of looked like it needed a little bit more oil. It's a big sauce, eh? When you're deciding what cut of meat you're using, remember, this is just so flexible. I'm using this beautiful, quite expensive blade roast, or you can use a pork chop. I know people who do it with pork hocks, a little more fat. Depends on what you like. Chicken, you do chicken. Again, that separate cooking with a meat just takes the edge off the onions for the traditional sauce. But you know, I'm kind of liking what's happening in this other sauce without the onions. Look at the way the paste, it looks almost like it's a sauce already. Isn't that cool? Yummy. Right in there. Okay, that's beautiful. And I'm gonna put the second one on just so that they have, my dear friend who is allergic to garlic will have lots. So this, I would recommend if you're making a meat sauce, not to seal it. I would recommend that you freeze it. And that recommendation comes on a couple of times of attempts that I've had, and I was not successful. Now, all of you out there watching this, if you've done it and had great success, power to you. I'm just telling you what my experience is. I want that onion to caramelize, right? So now this, you'll see, this is beautiful. I'm gonna add, look at what you do. You don't just waste all that. So I'm gonna throw it in here. And a little more water. Can't waste all this goodness. You just can't. And this is nice and thick, so you want to add some liquid to it too. So you're cooking, the paprika gets cooked into it, the black pepper gets cooked. I'm going to put the basil at the end. I'm going to put a little bit of basil, especially to this sauce that we need some flavor. And I'll salt it to the end too. So now this we could probably cover and leave it on a lower heat and let it simmer. We're not quite there yet for this one. This one takes a little bit longer. Recommendation I would probably make is when you divvy up the sauce, especially since the meat's made, you can put a sauce with 2-3 pieces of meat, sauce with 2-3 pieces of meat, and that would be enough. Maybe 3 ladlefuls. That'd be enough for 1 to 2 people for sure. Or you do the whole big sauce for Christmas supper. Look at that, coming nice, eh? And see the way the oil comes up? That's a good sign. But you shouldn't rush greatness. See how clean my jars are? I'm not wasting anything. This is the last of a little bit of paste. One. Nice and slow. There's jar number 2. It's so beautifully thick, this tomatoes. Look at that's just tomato. Look at how thick that is. It's just lovely. And we're gonna let this cook. Once I've added more liquid to it, we're gonna let this cook for at least, I would say, 2 hours. You can't rush greatness. So we're going to let this simmer. This is basil. Isn't that nice? Okay. Let this simmer maybe a little higher than that. And I've got them both set at about medium heat. Look at this. This is the no onions. No garlic, no onions. You say, no flavor. No, I think there's a lot of flavor in this one too. It's gonna be lovely. So let's just let that perk. I've got my favorite bowl out. And you say recipe. That's a problem. So I'm taking, this is approximately 4 pounds of ground. I've asked for medium ground pork. Sometimes I even grind my own. Just easier, you get what you want. But these are good butchers, and yeah, medium ground pork. It's garbage. Awesome. Then I'm gonna eyeball. Now, I want to show you. This is my parm, and this is my breadcrumbs. We don't buy breadcrumbs. We just keep any of the scrap, bread, buns, whatever, we grind it ourselves. So there is nothing in this other than breadcrumbs. So I'm gonna try, and I'm not sure how many cups it's gonna be. I'm just trying to match it up. So by eyeballing, not by weight, I'm gonna eyeball that we have the same amount of breadcrumbs. Might need to go get more Parmesan cheese. I buy already high quality, already ground Parmesan. I know there's you purists out there who say you must grind your own, but I have done it, and I do it on occasion when I happen to have a nice piece of Parmesan handed to me, but as a rule, I cheat. I do. And I'm going, again, I just want to look about the same. So if you could see, maybe a little bit here. Got to fill this up again. I just keep recycling the container. I buy big bags and I just keep going. I think I'm going to put just one more. Okay. What else? This is going to have, again, one of our main spices, black pepper. That should be enough. Then I'm going to take this lovely basil. I'll show you how to chop basil quickly. All the little tricks. So what I like to do is kind of roll them together and then just really fine chop them. And again with this, it's to your preference, how much or how little. So you see how it's kind of a visual? So you're trying to make it 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Then we're going to start breaking eggs. So there's our garden fresh garlic. So I would always use fresh garlic and a garlic press. You can chop it, you can use garlic powder. It's very personal preference for sure. Because you don't want to get that skin in there. For some reason we always do if we don't. So I'm going to eyeball it. I think about 5 eggs. and pour it in. I don't even squish them. Then I'm gonna get in there with my hands. Again, there's purists out there that might say, oh, you gotta measure everything, but we just never did. It's not enough eggs.
How do you know?
Because it's dry. So we're at 9. It's blending. That's a lot of meatballs. So again, this is about, sprinkle all this on. I do need another egg for sure. Again, crack it right into the measuring cup. That way we won't have any skins to worry about. Double check. There we go. Okay. And I'm not pouring it in there. I'm just gonna scoop. I'm just gonna scoop. You just want a little bit. Again, it's all by feel. And you go and you take the sauce, see? And just pour it over top of that. There you go. That just adds flavor. It's all about flavor. Bring it back to my surface. And it's starting to bind together lovely. That extra bit of sauce, that tiny bit of water. So the more you mix it, you'll see that all, look, you can break it open. It's all incorporated. Yeah, there's a little bit of sauce. And the more you do this, the more confident you'll get. That's a little bit of the pepper. Pull it out. So we have the basil, we have the garlic, we have black pepper. You can add at this point if you think you need more. I think they're good. And I'm gonna roll these out and then I'm gonna show you how to poach them in the sauce. So we're ready now to roll. My mother would have stand by the stove and rolled and plopped them right into the sauce. I like to do this all ahead of time. And I do find rolling very therapeutic. Size of a little bit less than a tennis ball is what I make. Again, you know, this is personal. You're gonna do whatever works for you and your family. You made the commitment of making your own meatballs. You can't let me dissuade you from what works in your own family. So the meatballs have been mixed. And traditionally, I remember my Auntie Rose, she's got to get honorable mention because I remember her making the meatballs. She would throw one in just to test. And again, look at that sauce. It's beautiful. Maybe I'll do 2. Huh. You can't fly with one wing. Okay, that's ready. Okay, now let's just let that poach for a while. And then if we like the texture, then we'll finish rolling. Go like this. So this tester is not necessarily the same amount of time as when I would cook my meatballs. It might be a little bit not quite ready, but that's why it's a tester. Look at that. And if somebody else will come and test it with me. So that's all I have in there. There's still meat. And it's still cooking away. Beautiful.
Sorry, puppy.
Grab a fork. Cut it open. See, it's almost ready, but it's ready enough for me to taste it. That's really good. We're ready to roll the rest. So we're done. We've rolled them all out. I love rolling actually. Cookies, meatballs, you name it. I'll tell you a little story. Every Christmas we make lasagna, homemade pasta. That might be another show. And baby meatballs. Yes. One of these you're gonna get like, I'm telling you, really small. Quite a few. And again, we poach it in the sauce and then we layer it with our lasagna noodles. And the pasta for our lasagna is homemade as well. So again, that might be another show. So you've seen, this is about 4 pounds of medium ground pork with the combination of the Parmesan cheese and the homemade breadcrumbs. We have, let's count them, 12, about 45 meatballs. Not, you know, nice way to spend an afternoon. So, we're on to the next step. I told you you were going to follow me step by step by step. And remember always, in Italian cooking, there's a lot of forgiveness. Everybody kind of does their own thing. Off goes the lid, big lid. I'm going to scoop out of my sauce all the meat. And I'm going to be generous when I scoop it because I want to save some of this sauce that doesn't get any meatball juices into it. And we've always done that. We've always separated the beef from the meatballs. Okay, I'm going to put 2 cups. So that's just going to loosen it up a little bit because it's very thick, right? I'm also going to turn that up higher. And then we'll start poaching it. So let's let this start bubbling a little bit more because I kind of like it to bubble strong for a bit, okay? So then in this pot, we're going to do the same thing. We're removing the meat, which by the way is delicious. Okay, look at that sauce, so nice and thick. So if you are allergic to garlic and onion, you can make a lovely sauce without those 2 ingredients. It does help to have the homemade paste, adds flavor, but I think this can be done regardless. Okay. And I'm going to add to this about 1 cup of water, not as much. So after you've eaten that tester, now you've rolled out all your meatballs, right? In that tester, whoever's tested it should be able to tell you if there's enough salt. If there isn't, once we throw our meatballs into the sauce, we'll add a little bit more salt, right? So look at how convenient this is once you've rolled them. Again, my mother would have just stood for hours in front of the thing and she would have rolled. Mine are ready. 1, 2, 3, 27, 28. So that's 28 in the big pot. Put this over here. By the miracle of television, somebody will wash it. And what I like to do, it's in Italian we say saccaria. We just like give this a little bit of a wiggle. And we've got it on closer to high, but not really high heat. We're going to put the lid on that and they're going to just kind of puff up something beautiful. Okay, we got that done. Then we have our sauce because we have that poor person whose belly hurts because she's allergic to garlic and she's allergic to onion. So there is no onion and no garlic in this mix, but we still have beautiful meatballs. Here we go. Do you know what we have here? We have a party. That's enough to feed, I would say, 15 people. Or to freeze it for the winter and know that you have food. It's the way my brain works. Okay, so we did mention that. The tester said it needed a little bit more salt. And again, I'm just gonna add a little bit more salt right to the sauce. I'm gonna do the same thing on this one too. And this is all personal preference. I think I'm gonna turn you down a little bit. And you down a little bit. Okay. And we're done. Now that just has to be poached. I hope I've gone into enough detail that you're actually going to attempt this in your own kitchen. Again, the quantities are quite large. I would say comfortably 15 to 20 people you'd be able to feed with these quantities. You make a nice few buns, beautiful salad, and pasta, and it's a full meal. It's been my pleasure to show you some of the things that I learned from my parents and from my elders, other people in my community, because it's a very sharing. I live in a small town, Northern Ontario, Scriber, Ontario, and it's all about community and staying together and enjoying each other. And it's, I remember making all kinds of things with these wonderful ladies. It was nothing for them to say, hey, come, let's roll the meatballs together. It was nothing for them to say, let's make sausage together. Sausage, that might be another episode. We might have to do that. Take care.